technology. In this time, could you imagine
the study of tech?
The study of tech, the study of technology, information. Well, what is the study of tech? What is it called?
Techology.
Techology.
Drop the N.
Techology. That sounds like a badass anime from like the 80s about some robot. Techology. When do you think they'll use technology to solve all the world's problems?
Like next week.
Next week. Yeah, just flip the switch, right? That's what you do with technology.
Yeah.
Flip it.
What happened? That was a TikTok. What happened to that TikTok? Flip the switch.
With is it a Drake song?
Anything could be a Drake song at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll describe the TikTok. It's are you always in a bathroom? I guess that's where mirrors are.
Yeah. And then they play that song.
What is it? Shawty can flip the switch. And
yeah,
that's
probably.
The switch being flipped.
And it's two people, and then when they turn off the light and then turn it back on, those two people have switched outfits, right?
Yes. What's great about the internet, not even this meme or this challenge on TikTok, is that initially it's always this kind of, innocent, kind of innocuous thing where it's just like, oh, it's me and my girlfriend or me and my boyfriend, and we're just doing this. And then like 2 weeks later, it's the most like bastardized version of that challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of it being like, two people in a relationship, it's like a group of people, or, one person has like a mask on, and then you flip the switch and then the other person is wearing the mask. They're like dressed like Batman. And then the switch is flipped, and it's just like, oh, now this person's Batman. And then you're just like, what was the first thing of this? I don't know how this started or why.
Yeah, it defeats the whole purpose. We got away from what was fun about this.
Absolutely.
And now it became mainstream.
Yeah.
Back then it was indie, it was just
super indie.
One poster caught on.
Yep.
We got to think of a challenge.
Yeah, it was released initially on Sub Pop, and then it blew up to, Columbia Records.
Yeah.
And then boom.
Damn sellout.
Dang sellout. Yeah, it would be fun to come up with. Do they make money off of that? Or is it just like, oh, you're semi-famous from doing this challenge or this dance? It's usually a dance.
I think it's just something that, it's over within, a week or a couple of days, and then it's on to something else. Somebody else takes that spot.
Yeah, you're 15 minutes of fame. Andy Warhol.
15 seconds of fame because it's TikTok.
Exactly. That's the world we live on, 15 seconds of fame. You don't even get 15 minutes anymore.
Not anymore.
How old do we sound talking about 15 seconds of fame, TikTok, dances, and Drake songs?
I think that makes us sound young.
I feel like that's a job at some point in the future, is just a youth liaison where, it's a bunch of old farts sitting around a desk being like, we need to market this thing. And then they hire a couple of young kiddos and be like, is this cool? Will people like this?
Like Tom Hanks in Big.
Wait, how? Is that what I've never seen that movie. I don't know. I'm missing a key reference here.
He gets big. You know that much.
Wait, that Big is not the one with the mermaid?
No. That's Splash.
Okay.
Big is where he wishes on a machine that he can be big enough to ride a roller coaster because he's a little boy. And so he grows up. He wakes up the next morning and he's an adult. man, he's Tom
He's
Hanks.
Tom
But
Hanks.
I don't think he ever rides that roller coaster, by the way, that
Wait,
he said he wanted to ride. He got distracted by a bunch of other stuff. So he goes to the city
right.
and he gets a job at like a toy, like FAO Schwartz, I think, and that's when they do the piano thing. But I think he works there or something.
There's so
But
many things
he
about what you have just said so far. I'm gonna let you continue, but let's just dissect so far. He does a Freaky Friday with an imaginary adult, right? Like Tom
no
Hanks isn't an adult.
no Freaky Friday because it's only him.
Right, that's what I mean. Like he wishes to be someone older and then just
Yeah,
becomes Tom Hanks who is it
we assume
basically
that's what he'll look like when he's
gotcha.
older.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he's an adult, so obviously as an adult he's like, "Shit, I got to get a job. I can't
Hmm.
just be a kid and have someone feed me."
Well, he can't live at home either because his mom's freaked out by him.
Yeah, cuz it's like,
She's like, "Who's this man in my house?"
"Where's my child? Where's my son?"
Yeah,
And it's just like,
yeah, that's part of it.
I'm Tom Hanks. I mean, isn't that better than having a child? And she
Yeah,
kicks him out. So he's like, "What am I going to do? I need to make money. The only place I know is FAO Schwartz cuz toys. I'm still a child. Is it a child brain in the adult body? Is
yeah,
that
and that's the comedic premise is that
of
he's
course.
going through an adult life but acting like a child. So like when he goes on a date or something like that, then it's
Oh
he's
god.
immature. But so anyway, he works for a toy company and he is like a low level data entry employee, just gets like a first
Right.
job, and then he has this insight into what kids will like and what they
Ah,
won't like because he is a kid. So instead of doing like focus groups with little kids, they just have this guy, and he's like, up on all the trends that the kids are up on.
right. Interesting. So it's a little bit of a mix between um a Freaky
It's not a
Friday.
mix between anything. It's
It's a
big.
mix between Freaky Friday and what women want
No, because
because
he
he
can't hear anybody's
no, I know,
thoughts.
but he has knowledge that adults don't have because it's a child actually.
Hmm.
Also, he goes on a date. There's no like sex scene or anything, right? In that movie.
You're gonna have to watch it.
It's a tease. I think that was definitely I don't know when Big came out, probably in the late 80s, 90s, right?
Yeah.
There was definitely a slew of movies where kids were either becoming adults or had access to adult things that they shouldn't have had as a kid. So like weird science, um, what is it? The blank check is another one.
Blank check. He shouldn't have had access to a blank check.
He shouldn't have had access to a blank check. Um, Parent
Home
Trap,
Alone, I guess,
Home
in a
Alone.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way a kid should be able to create a torture chamber for two grown adults in his Chicago home. Like, I know, there's the kind of, well, kids are mischievous and they're a lot craftier than, you might think just because they're kids. But, Kevin McAllister, what a he's got a brain on him and a set of brass ones too, because most kids would just be like, oh, these are adults, I'll run away or I'll scream or I'll cry. And he was just like, let me fill a paint can full of rocks and dump it on a grown man adult's head who has a gun and a knife and is trying to kill you.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece.
Truly. I want to see the Grizzly version of that. I want to see like a reboot.
The old boy version of Home Alone,
Yeah.
where it's uh Kevin has just got a hatchet and he's like whacking at Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
I feel like that movie's
Make
probably
that
been made.
movie.
I mean, isn't that movie
Probably.
Chucky basically? replace the
Yeah, that
doll
movie's
with like a
basically.
child.
Yeah, you're right. That's Chucky.
I've only
Now, Chucky is a guy like a murderer who embodies a doll.
yes, I believe so. It's
So he's Freaky
yeah.
Friday'd with a doll.
It's again a mix of Frankenstein and
Mm-hmm.
Halloween, basically. But yeah, he Freaky Fridays with a doll. But I don't know if that's necessarily explained. I've only seen part of that movie. When those movies came out, I was terrified. There was
Yeah.
nothing I didn't want to see. That all of the like bad kids in my school had like Chucky stickers or like, you
Ugh.
know, because they're
I
just
bet
like
they were just as afraid of it as you were, though, and they were just trying to like,
they're compensating.
yeah, like, well, I'm gonna use this fear.
Probably. I mean, Chucky was terrifying. There were a lot of those movies. I don't know if you had ever done that when you were younger, like gone over to a friend's house and watched like a scary movie on purpose, like we're gonna watch this. And in the middle of you watching it, you're like, oh, I'm a little too young for this, but I'm with friends. So you don't want to be the person who's like, hey guys, like this is pretty scary. You guys want to eat pizza or like go play mini
Yeah,
golf or something like that? And they're all just like, they're probably also scared, but no one wants to say anything
right.
because you don't want to be a
I don't,
wuss.
I don't remember that with scary movies, but I remember that with the Howard Stern movie Private Parts.
Ugh,
Watching watching that on because my friend had HBO
right.
and that was on, and so that was something. It's like I don't know that we should be watching this because there's like a lot of sex stuff.
Right. There are always
But
those movies or TV shows. I guess TV was less so because you either had to have like a premium cable channel like HBO or Cinemax or whatever in order to get those kind of movies or TV shows.
yeah,
Um, Now it's just like you just go on your phone and you can see the wildest stuff you've ever seen in your entire life.
right.
But I think the first, so there were two things. I was staying with a babysitter when I was a kid, and they were watching, I forget what movie it was. It was either White Man Can't Jump or another movie where a guy from Africa comes to the United States and does stuff. But the beginning of
Okay,
it was either one of those movies. I don't know if that's
so
what
it was Coming to America or White Men Can't Jump.
it was a lesser known version of those movies. Where like a white dude and a black guy are like, oh, we're not that different, even though we look different, one of
Hmm.
those kind of things.
Which is
But
true, you know.
it's so true. And if more people recognize that, we would have the things we have today. Um, the movie starts out with like a ceremony, and this is taking place in Africa before the transition to, the next location. And as part of this ceremony, somebody cuts their stomach with a knife, like just like a scar, kind of like a ceremony or whatever. And I was watching this and I was horrified. I just immediately got up and I was just like, I didn't even say to the babysitter, I was like, I can't watch this. I was just like, ugh. And since today, I can still picture that shot and whatever. And even if I run across that movie, I'll just be like, yeah, I can't do it. That
Hmm.
movie and Black Hawk Down, because that was like a rated R movie, and I think I saw it when I was like 14 or something like that. And
Right.
have you seen Black Hawk Down?
No.
There's it's about American soldiers in Somalia, and they get trapped for like a day or two under siege from this warlord. And it's a very unique movie because Jerry Bruckheimer, Ridley Scott team up for an epic war movie that has, and I'm not joking, 0 women in it. 0. There is not a extra in the movie that is a woman. Like, it is just all dudes. All the soldiers are dudes. All of the like comms people are dudes. Everything. And there's a part towards the end of the movie where somebody gets shot, and he has like a bullet in his leg, and they have to like do surgery in the war zone to get the bullet out. And they show it pretty graphically, and I remember just like in the theater just covering my eyes, and my dad afterwards just being like, yeah, that was pretty graphic. And I remember, because you always know when you tell somebody who's like, oh yeah, I saw this movie, and they're just like, oh whoa, you saw that? You just kind of immediately know, is like, maybe I shouldn't have seen that at that age.
Hmm. But now I feel like television is so graphic, like that. I wonder if that would bother you
Right.
in the same way if you had like, because now they show all this violence on TV, but they
That's
can't
true.
curse. That's the weird thing, is they can't, like,
Yeah.
Dexter's not
Walt.
like Walking Dead is
Right.
ultra violent,
Oh
but
yeah.
they can't curse.
They can't curse. They can't swear. But you can execute a child in that show and be like, well,
Yeah,
it's still on
children
TV.
die in that show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird that there is that line. I mean, those rating systems are so antiquated, and they're like really, it's really meant for movies. Like TV, anybody can flip a channel and get to that thing. Whereas at a movie theater, in order to go to a rated R movie or PG-13, you have to buy a ticket and then go there and, see that. So it makes sense how you can like regulate that. But with TV, you can be watching Cartoon Network and then take a couple of flicks of your remote control, and then boom, you're watching Nip Tuck,
Hmm.
and then forget about it.
Forget about it.
The best though is shows that are on like HBO or like whatever cable TV, in when they get reruns and they get put on like TBS. Like I see, Sex and the City is like a really great example where it's on
Oh,
TBS,
right.
but HBO, obviously there's a lot of nudity and sex stuff in Sex and the City. So part of what they can do is they can just like cut those scenes out. So it's like, we just aren't showing these scenes on TBS at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But some of it are integral to the story, so they can't really cut it. So what they'll do is they'll draw fake like bras or panties like on the women if they're naked, or
Really?
oh yeah. And I don't know if they still do it anymore, but it was such a, because you'd be like, wow, it's, why are her boobs kind of blurry, but also like darker than the rest of her? It's like, oh, that's just like an airbrush basically
I
blurring
didn't know
out
that.
the boobs and the butts and the dicks. I don't think they showed dicks on that show.
I like when they have to replace dialogue for basic cable, like movies.
Right.
Like they do their own like dubbing, right? Or alternate versions or something.
Yeah, I think Quentin Tarantino is well known for like doing his own version of that for TV. So like,
Hmm.
yeah, I think whoever ends up buying that movie or whatever, I think it's their responsibility to go in and like dub or do any of those kind of things to make it TV friendly. And
Right.
so yeah, that's the best are the foreign films that get put on there, and it's just like you can just kind of say whatever. The
Hmm.
80s action movies like Yippee Ki what is it? Mother Trucker?
Something like that. Yeah, Mother
Yeah,
Lover or something.
Mother Lover.
What
Eh,
is there's a famous Big Lebowski one. I don't remember what it
Ooh,
is.
I don't know. Let me look it up real quick. The big
Pretty sure that's what it is.
fight a stranger in the Alps, and that's this is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass.
Yes.
Fight a
Yeah.
stranger in the Alps. When he's trashing that dude's car, and then he's just like, "What are you
Right.
doing?" Classic.
Hmm. So you can use some creativity in your censorship, I suppose.
Yeah, and that would be a great job too, because who's really like, I don't know. I guess if you're watching that movie, you've probably never seen it before, for the most part, or else why would you watch a
Yeah,
movie on
yeah.
TV?
Nobody rewatch. Oh, okay, on TV.
Yeah, I mean,
Nobody
obviously,
rewatches a movie they've seen.
no, you have.
Ludicrous.
I think that's where the edits for TV can get kind of like popular because it's like that's not what they say in the movie. But if you've just never
Yeah,
seen it before,
Snakes on a plane. I think is get these monkey loving snakes off this monkey loving plane or something like that.
that's so weird.
Yeah,
It's better if you just beep it. Just give a beep.
or
And
drop
it
drop the audio. Yeah.
drop the audio, exactly. Like, I think there are obviously some movies where they swear a ton and it's kind of hard to, but I mean, that's the same with like listening to rap music on the radio. It's just mostly dropped audio
Hmm.
because not a lot of artists will actually record a clean version of their song
Right. Did you
unless
ever
they like,
have an edited album? I had a couple of
I think so.
of those ones without the parental advisory.
Didn't the parental advisory, I guess depending on where you bought it, it had to get like cleared or something? Like they might have had like one of those things where like if you not that if you take it out of the store it would beep, but it was like locked. I wonder if that was just some random thing
Maybe
that I
it's
saw.
certain stores did lock movies and like CDs in a box, but
This stuff is
or
too
put that really big. Like a Sam Goody, I think had
right,
like a big apparatus on it that they had to take off.
right. Well, yeah, because people would just go in there and steal music. That was
And
like
now they
probably
do it online.
yeah, absolutely. It was probably the number one store to go steal music from, Sam Goody.
Sam Goody.
Yeah, because I mean, it was run by mostly 15-year-olds. I guess there was an adult manager somewhere, but I never saw one.
Teens used to have a lot more responsibility.
Yeah. We should give them more responsibility now. Just be like, here you go. Go mow these strangers' lawns. Like, I thinking of that now, obviously kids would do stuff like that and they would do it and follow the rules because there's a fear of like adults or the repercussion that would happen. And obviously as you get older you're like, oh, I could have just done whatever and no one would have really done anything to me.
Yeah.
And now as an adult I'm like, oh, if I realized how much adults didn't really care if a kid messed something up, how much I could get away with, I would have probably been in jail by now.
Yeah. You got to say, hey, does this really matter to you? You know, somebody
Yeah.
yells at you as a kid. I guess you could do it now. Somebody yells at you. Nobody should be yelling at anybody when you're an adult.
I know.
Like,
You should
I don't know the last time somebody yelled at me, but that it sounds
sounds dumb.
weird. It's like I'm a grown person and you're yelling.
I guess sports maybe was the last thing somebody might have yelled. But even then it's still kind of like, why are you yelling? You're not my
Yeah.
dad or my mom. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. What are you gonna do? Not see me when I come to practice? Like, as a like your parents obviously have something over you because you live in their house.
Yeah. And
But
you,
like,
if you want to live under their roof, you have to live by their rules.
absolutely, or else suffer the consequences of not getting the things that you want.
To the moon.
To the moon,
Right to the moon.
right to the moon. Do you think
One of these days.
yeah, I was gonna say, do you think when Elon Musk takes us to the moon and then to Mars, do you think we'll still have these same rules?
No, those will be space rules.
Space rules.
They'll be a little bit different.
Yeah. You have to follow space rules or else suffer space law and space consequences, which people never talk about. We just think about, oh, let's just get to the moon, but what
What
happens?
if an astronaut misbehaves on the trip up there?
Yeah, is it, you know how like Osama bin Laden, when he was killed, his body was thrown into the ocean, like
Yeah.
because it's like a sailor's death. What do you think they do for astronauts? Do they just, you know, float you into the nebula
Hmm.
and you just float for existence until some aliens pick you up?
That's a good question.
It is also a good movie. Let's say you let wait, that
We
is a
got
movie. Isn't that
what
a
movie
movie
is
with
it?
Jim Brewer
A
where he's
space
like,
movie with Jim Brewer?
yes, he's on Mars and maybe it's not Jim Brewer, but it's a comedy where they're in space and oh fuck, this is gonna make me go crazy now. Like one of the jokes is that um somebody puts too much air in the spacesuit, so it's like a fat suit. So he's like bouncing on the space floor in like a fat suit.
Hmm. I don't know that I've ever seen.
For some reason, oh, here we go. It's fuck. Google sucks sometimes.
Did you find it? What happened? What did
The
Google?
I
What
found
did
the
Google do? It
photo.
sounded like you. Yeah.
I found the photo, but it's used as a photo for an article that is something completely different. All right, the movie is called Rocket Man, and it's Harlan Williams, not Jim Brewer.
Okay.
Very similar looking dudes. But yeah, he gets basically a chance to travel to Mars. He doesn't meet aliens, I don't believe, but um, hilarity ensues, as one could imagine.
I love when people they describe a premise and they're like, and hilarity ensues because they haven't finished their pitch. They're just like, well, this guy is different from this guy, and they get together, and you can imagine hilarity ensues.
Exactly.
I haven't thought it out, but
That's also what they would use for like reviewing movies, where it's just like, I'm not going to give you all of the jokes, but just imagine hilarity ensues.
yeah.
And then whoever you are like, oh, I have to figure this out. Wow.
What about when they put all the good things in trailers?
Yeah.
Remember that? Where like there's nothing in the movie
yeah,
because all the funny lines or all the good scenes were in the trailer.
Yeah. Pretty much every movie that we grew up with had that. So linked to Rocketman is another movie I'm going to ask you about, and just curious if you've ever seen this movie or heard of this movie.
Yeah.
Called Meet the Deedles.
No.
Starring R.I.P. Paul Walker and Steve Van Warmer. So this movie, Rocket Man, Half Baked, Deuce Bigelow, like these were all movies that played on Comedy Central like 24/7.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you the premise of Meet the Deedles. Two surfers end up as Yellowstone Park rangers and have to stop a former ranger who is out for revenge. And then obviously you can add hilarity ensues.
So it's a play on Meet the Beatles, but it has nothing to do with music.
Shut up. Meet the Deedles. I think their character's last name are Deedle, which is
I got that.
an all-time last name.
But they like picked that last name, so they could have made it anything.
You're absolutely right. It could be Meet the Fockers, for example, and
Yeah,
that's, what that name would be. Because this is not real life,
but
this
it's
is a
not. Yeah,
movie.
it's not like, well, their name is Deedles, so we have to pick a title that we can make a pun out of. No, just find something you like, and then change their last name.
Exactly. Or name the movie
Rewrite.
something completely different.
Yeah.
Call it Surfing in Yellowstone. I don't know. You could call it a million different things. But you're right. It also seemed like, so this is a Disney movie, so maybe that has a factor in it too, but it also seems like a movie that was called something else, and then they were like, yeah, that's not going to work. Let's call it Meet the Deedles, because Meet the Parents is really popular. So we'll just say, people will be like, oh, is this a Meet the Parents sequel? And it's like, no, it's Meet the Deedles.
Yeah. How can you work on that movie and be like, yeah, we're doing something.
Money.
We're making something.
Money's, yeah. Someone's just like, hey, Mark, I'm going to give you $25,000 to write this movie in 2 weeks. And you'll be like, yes, absolutely, please. And then when it's all done, you can change your name so that nobody knows that you wrote the movie.
Yeah.
What would be your Dalton Trumbo, your alias, if for some reason somebody tries to out you as part of the Communist Party and the Congress is looking after you, so you're blackballed from Hollywood? What would be your name?
Mark Dowling. Shit.
Shit. Wrong one.
That's my name.
Wait,
Derek.
what is the formula they do for, like, this is your porn star name, the street you grew up on, and
the first cat you loved.
the first cat you loved?
Yeah.
I think it's the name of your first pet.
Exactly.
I think mine would be called. Wait, so what would be your first name?
Yes.
The street name or the
street?
So it would be the name. Your pet's name is your first name, and then your
I think it's your
street is your next name.
Okay.
So like your first name is your pet name, and the street name is your last name. So mine would be Floppy Second Street.
Ooh. Mine would be Snooker Williams.
Snooker Williams.
Yeah.
That's definitely a porn star name. Snooker Williams. You've
so maybe that would be my alias.
Yeah, you've got a mustache, neck tattoo, and a gold tooth.
Mm-hmm.
Snooker Williams. Dang. All right, should we get started?
Let's get started.